lovely good morning to you, our viewers. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Camnet TV Breakfast Show of today being the 3rd of October 2022. I know it's a new month. What are you looking up to? I know just like me, you are not waiting for January 2023 when the new budget will come into effect. But anyway, I am your host, Miriam Kaimba, and in studio, I am not alone. I am joined by my beautiful colleague, Zipporah Mshala. How are you?
I'm fine.
You know, when I was introducing you, but anyway, tomorrow you have to, do the majestical introduction on me. But anyway, away from that, how is your morning so far?
It's all right, especially that, many good things happened over the weekend to Camnet TV, so we're really
exactly. Anyway, by the way, congratulations to you.
Oh, congratulations on what? Maybe the girls are wearing on there.
For scooping the best award in social protection. Congratulations to you. As well as Camnet TV, as well as Tito Kalama and Patrick Soko. Yeah, exactly. We saw so many awards over the weekend. From the music awards, we even saw the president, being awarded.
In the music award, this many people were like, why should the president be awarded? Just a special recognition, isn't it?
Yes.
And we saw some stakeholders, among them, is it PEP president? They were saying what criteria was used.
Was used, yes.
Anyway, it's been a wonderful weekend, all in all.
Exactly, Zipporah. So what do we have for our guests, our viewers this morning?
And so this morning we have some very interesting topics where we're looking at the budget proposal that was actually read on Friday. And so is Zambia likely to attain the status of a middle-income country given the budget implementation so far? For example, in 2022, we had 25.7 million kwacha, but this has been marred with so much confusion, saying it was not released in full, the guidelines were strict, people didn't benefit. Many people have been discouraged from applying. So now that we've seen the CDF proposed to increase to 28.3 million. Really, is that going to be something that is going to succeed?
Exactly. And, Zipporah, one thing I loved about this is that, the funds that were remaining from the previous CDF will not be, those funds which were not utilized will not be recalled by the Treasury. So meaning that people can still use those funds. That's a good thing anyway. Well, if you ask me, that's a very, very good thing, and people should take advantage of that. But anyway, before we go into talking and bluffing around, let's go direct into looking at what the doctors have for us this morning, our health corner, and we'll be right back.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Mainga Nalube. I'm with the Medical Women's Association of Zambia. Welcome to Health Corner. So this week we'll be discussing a very important topic. This topic is high blood pressure. I'm sure most of you have heard about it, know someone living with it, because it's a very, very common topic. Another name for this is hypertension. So if you've heard the word hypertension being used, the person using it is simply referring to high blood pressure. So this being a very common topic, it's very important that we are acquainted with it and we know what exactly it is, so that we know how to take care of our relatives with it and even take care of ourselves and also to prevent it. So today we'll be talking about what it is and the risk factors. So I'll explain later what risk factors are. So to begin with, we'll have to understand what blood pressure is. Before we know if it's high or low, we have to understand what it actually is. So blood pressure is the force with which blood passes through your arteries or hits your artery walls when it's coming from the heart. So I've talked about arteries. We know about the blood vessels in our body. So arteries are simply the blood vessels that take blood away from the heart to the other parts of the body, to the rest of the body. And then the other type of blood vessels that we have are the veins. These are the blood vessels that take blood away from your body back to the heart and then to the lungs. So in this case, I'm talking about the arteries, which are the ones that take blood from the heart to the other parts of the body. So we've mentioned that blood pressure is the force with which blood moves through these arteries. So it can either be high or low, but in this case, we're looking at high blood pressure. So before we look at that, I want to just discuss what factors affect blood pressure. So we've got three main factors that affect blood pressure. Our first factor is the cardiac output. So what's cardiac output? This is the amount of blood being pushed from the heart into the arteries. That's the cardiac output, simply put. And then we have blood volume. This is the amount of blood that's moving through your bloodstream. And then our third factor is resistance in the arteries. So I've mentioned three things. These are the factors that affect your blood pressure. So we've mentioned resistance in the arteries, we've mentioned the blood volume, and we've mentioned cardiac output. So any defect or any problem in these three things will cause your blood pressure to either become high or low. So I'll give an example of, let's say maybe resistance is increased. So if resistance in your arteries is increased, this will cause your blood pressure to become high. So we'll discuss how these three factors affect our blood pressure when we start looking at risk factors. For now, you should know that we've got these three factors that affect our blood pressure. So there are two types of high blood pressure. We have primary and secondary. So I'll explain what secondary is and I'll explain what primary is. Secondary high blood pressure, or otherwise known as secondary hypertension, is high blood pressure that's caused by an already existing disease, condition, or even certain drugs. We have certain drugs that have a side effect of increasing your blood pressure. So if you already have an underlying disease or condition that predisposes you or puts you at risk of having high blood pressure, this type of high blood pressure is called secondary high blood pressure. And then we also have primary, which has no known underlying cause. So this one just starts on its own. It has no known already existing. So this is in a person that does not have an already existing condition that predisposes them to high blood pressure. So we've talked about primary and secondary. Now let's look at the risk factors. Before I go into them, I'll explain what a risk factor is. So a risk factor is something that puts you or gives you a higher chance of having a certain disease or condition. But it does not mean that when you have this risk factor, you will definitely get the disease. No. So there are certain things that you could do to avoid or prevent or shorten the time or elongate the time, in which you get this disease, right, or condition. So if you have risk factor, it doesn't mean that you will get the disease. It just means that you can now put in preventative measures to avoid getting this condition. So one risk factor is family history. We have heard people, and even when you go to the clinics, people ask, the doctors will ask you, does anyone in your family have high blood pressure? Yes. So when they ask you that, it's because someone in your family having high blood pressure puts you at an increased chance or risk of having high blood pressure also in your life. Another risk factor is old age. So as people grow older, the chances of getting high blood pressure are increased. And then another risk factor is obesity and a sedentary lifestyle. What do I mean by a sedentary lifestyle? People who do not exercise at all. So you're always seated, you're always lazing around, or you have a job where you're always seated. Make sure you always put exercise into your lifestyle. Another risk factor is increased salt diet. So when we start to talk about the treatment later on, we're going to talk about how you can avoid having hypertension by changing your lifestyle, which are reducing these risk factors that I'm talking about. Another risk factor is a high alcohol intake. Another risk factor could be already existing conditions, which I've already talked about. Examples are diabetes and kidney disease. Another risk factor is smoking. And the last risk factor we'll talk about is race. It has been shown in studies that people of African descent have a higher risk of having hypertension in their life compared to Caucasians. So this has been Health Corner. I'm Dr. Mainga Nalube with Medical Women's Association of Zambia. See you tomorrow.
interesting there. Hope you got one or two things from the Health Corner, and just be reminded that you can come and sponsor the Health Corner. So this is the opportunity for you to make your small business known out there. It can be a small, medium enterprise, it can be anything. Just get visibility for your brand by sponsoring the Health Corner. And just now, Miriam, I'm going to take a look at the money market, and I think people are interested in the money market because we've got all these factors that are happening with the budget, we've got fuel, and all that. Really, we just hope to see the kwacha appreciate. We have like 3 months, or maybe should I say 2 months, till December, and we had at the beginning of this year, we had a number of projections from stakeholders stating that by December, they project that the kwacha will be at 10 to $1. But then we've seen that the kwacha has been fluctuating. So really, what is today's money market? And just a reminder that you can come and also sponsor the money market. So there we have the United States dollar, which is buying at 15 kwacha 16 way, selling at 15 kwacha 91 way. The Great British Pound, which is buying at 17 kwacha 34 way, selling at 17 kwacha 68 way. The Euro, which is buying at 15 kwacha 22 way, selling at 15 kwacha 52 way. The South African Rand, which is buying at 0 kwacha 87 way, and selling at 0 kwacha 88 way. Miriam, your thoughts, especially on the US dollar there?
Zipporah, just like you mentioned earlier, we have seen the kwacha, against the US dollar keeps on fluctuating. But then, again, we shouldn't forget the fact that why we are seeing the kwacha being at 15 there is because of the IMF bailout package has also contributed where it has seen the kwacha appreciate. And going in future, when come January 2023, we have so much expectation from the budget, and we hope that this will also reflect, in our currency as well. But anyway, not forgetting that the more we keep on having the kwacha fluctuate, this will have an implication later on in our economy, because we'll see the price of commodities, not having a stable price of commodities. But anyway, this is something that we don't want to see at the end of the day, Zipporah, as we go on, because a lot of households, struggle just to have 3 meals a day, and then you keep on having these high prices of commodities. This becomes a worrisome to the majority of the poor Zambians out there. Yeah. Yes,
definitely quite interesting. So you can also sponsor the money markets. Anyway, Miriam, moving on into zooming the headlines, we had some interesting stories. One of them was on Saturday, where we heard that UPND youths will start beating up people who are insulting a presidency. But even before we play that clip, do you think that is the right way to go?
No, Zipporah, that will be definitely, taking the law into your own hand, because we have laws in place. Those people you might allege they're insulting the president. That's the reason why we have the offense of defamation of the president. Anyone who is seen to book, exactly. So why should you take the law in your own hands and then start, going forth to, beating, giving help beatings to these opposition political party leaders who you presume are insulting the president or alleging issuing derogatory remarks against the president's office. But anyway, all in all, when you do that, it's also a factor that the law will also catch up with you, because that would be assault again on a person. You also go to jail for that. So why should you do that?
And have we seen like any UPND official or SG or anybody condemning that act which was actually done by their provincial youth chairperson?
So far, Zipporah, we haven't seen any.
And the silence, really, I'm sure we will need to get views from stakeholders.
From stakeholders, yeah.
The silence would mean that they approve, and that's what should be done.
Exactly.
Because people want to see maybe that person who's issuing lawless statements being disciplined, because the UPN actually promised us that the government of laws.
And they keep on preaching the same thing. They're saying this is a party of laws. We are not lawlessness. We follow the rule of law. That's the more reason why, when they came into power, they said we're dealing away with cadreism. We want to maintain this peace and order, the rule of law, and this is something that the president has continued preaching. And yet, if you see someone from their own party saying things which are now contrary, you get to question now, like what is happening. But anyway, let's get direct into playing the story. We will get back into discussing. And just a reminder to our viewers, those who are watching us live on Facebook, please do send us those messages and we'll be able to read them through. And those watching us live in the comfort of your home, please do call us. We have now opened our phone lines. Let's get direct into playing that story. We'll be right back. Most opposition political parties have not taken an easy tone on speaking their mind as they continue to offer the checks and balance to the ruling United Party for National Development, most vocal of them all being the former ruling party, Patriotic Front. Although it is a mandate of the opposition political parties to play their role in offering critical checks and balance to the current administration, the ruling party requests one thing from them: respect to the president's office. Saturday, 10 provincial youth chairpersons of the United Party for National Development held a briefing where they were discussing various national issues. Among those touched was the issue of respecting the president's office. A warning has been sent to the opposition political parties fond of disrespecting the president's office, as the UPND party says it will not hesitate to politically discipline anyone found disrespecting the highest office in the land, stating that those misbehaving are under surveillance. However, clarifies to state that innocent individuals will not be targeted.
We, the UPND youths, whoever is lying that UPND does not have strong youths that can beat, it's a blue lie. We are just disciplined youths. Yes. But I can assure you that when it comes to beating, we can beat the hell out of that so-called Sean Tembo. But we can't beat him because his health mentally is not well. Doing so will mean we, the youths, are not fair to Mr. Tembo because his brain is not in his normal position. So the youths of Zambia, the youths in the UPND, have got much potential to beat anyone who is insulting President Hakainde Hichilema. And if that continues, we are not ourselves as UPND. We are not a church, we are a political party. And we have got different types of people. People like me, a youth chairman, I can go and beat those that are misbehaving. Yes. And once the insults continue towards President Hakainde Hichilema, we shall begin to beat them physically, but we will not beat the innocent people. We will beat those that are misbehaving, who are insulting the president. This one, mark it, you, the media, tell them that we shall begin beating them.
Meanwhile, the party has commended itself for attaining almost 95% works from its campaign promises.
My message is very clear. It's just to appreciate our hard-working government, our hard-working president, His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, for not letting us down, the people of Zambia, because 95% of all the key promises so far has become a reality.
Lastly, the party also encouraged youths across the country, despite of their political affiliation, to form cooperatives as the days of handouts are over. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News. Different views. They are quite interesting views there from, the ruling party, where youths are now saying they will start beating opposition political leaders who are issuing derogatory remarks to the office of the president. Zipporah, your thought there before we went playing into this clip, we were discussing, and then, we were looking at the dangers. Why should we now take up the law in our own hands,
Yes, definitely. So like we said earlier, you can call in the numbers that are scrolling on your screen, or just leave us a message on Facebook and let us know your thoughts on what we are discussing. And so many people are waiting to hear what the view of the Secretary General is on that stance, where the youth chairpersons said they're going to start beating those who are insulting the president. I think, let's leave it there, whereby we're going to get a view and hear. But anyway, moving on, we have now been joined by Mr. Ruben Munya, who is Chilenje, Ward 8 Councillor, to just help us discuss the budget that was discussed, that was the budget proposal that was actually read on Friday. So given the trend that has the 2022 budget, the performance of the 2022 budget so far, are we on the right track to becoming a prosperous middle-income country by 2030. Good morning, Mr. Musa.
Good morning, thank you.
We are glad to have you on set.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you.
How's your morning so far?
My morning is okay. Not knowing yours.
Good. Now, going direct into this 2023 budget, which was, given by the Ministry of Finance on Friday, is Zambia in the right trajectory of becoming a prosperous middle-income country by 2030?
Yeah, that is a very true statement. I think even 2030 will be quite a bit far before we can begin to see the effectiveness of what you saw on Friday on that pronouncement of that budget. It is a good budget, and we are heading towards that route. Yeah.
Okay, and maybe just given your constituency, your constituency, your ward, maybe you can just talk about your ward in particular. Really, when you compare to this year, which has just ended, we had 25.7.
Yeah. Anyways, before you go into asking that question, we'll just take a short break, and we'll be right back. Thank you so much for still staying tuned to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Exactly, Zipporah, what we were discussing before we went on the break shortly.
Yes, definitely. Just apologize for that technical glitch right there. So we were discussing the 2022 budget and comparing it to the 2023 proposed budget, because we've seen that there are a number of changes and, in fact, enhancements in the 2023 proposed budget, which was read by Finance Minister Tumbeko Msokotwane on Friday. And one of these is actually the proposed increase of the Constituency Development Fund from 25.7 million kwacha to 28.3 million kwacha. So previously, a CDF was at 1.6 million kwacha. And so now people are wondering, like, we've seen these increases, but for example, has the 25.7 million kwacha for 2022 actually worked? Has it been disbursed on the ground? Because there are these concerns that it is surrounded by strict guidelines. So we're discussing really the effectiveness of how possible it is to actualize the 2023 budget with Chilenja Ward 8 Councillor Ruben Mwenya. So you can just, I'm sure, continue from where we left off. We're saying, for example, CDF in your ward, have you seen it working to its intended purpose?
Thank you so much, Zipporah. It's true we could not see a lot of possibly infrastructure development taking place through the 2022 CDF. But I can confirm with you that there are certain sectors that the CDF has started working already, like when you look at the school bursaries, you look at the skills bursaries. Those have, the CDF has already started materializing, and also you look at certain constituencies, you find that they've been able to have desks in schools, because I think the president made it very clear that as we are going to undertake this 2022 CDF, the target first will be in schools because of the policy of free education that was introduced. So you needed now to cater for the school classrooms. You need to look at the ablutions. You need to look at the desks to be able to strike a balance, because when you pronounce of free education, there must be a balance in the way things are done. So in that area, I think we've seen that things have started materializing.
Anyway, we will just call for a short break. We seem to be having a little technical challenges. We do apologize to our viewers out there. Okay, seems like you can proceed, Honorable, with your. You can proceed with your vote, yeah.
But it's
you can proceed. You can proceed, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like I was saying, so we've seen these implementations already taking place in the education sector, where the acquisition of school desks have been done at Lusaka Central and a few other constituencies. Of course, there's so much, like everything is being done at the same time. So because of that, we're experiencing a little bit of delays, because it's like the pronouncements are not matching to the preparedness of the system, because this system is receiving new things and it has to adapt and it has to adjust on a lot of things. For instance, when you talk of cooperatives, you find that there's only one institution that deals with the registration of cooperatives. So the whole country is going to that institution to have their cooperative registered. So it's a lot of work, which at the end of it all, we've requested that possibly the only solution to be able to see these implementations take place would be the full implementation of decentralization, because I think a lot of things have been centered at Ministry of Local Government, which is creating so much work for them and creating so much traffic in the processing of all these projects. Yeah.
Quite interesting. And so we'll just play a story, actually, just to help us get into the discussion, we'll play a story from the budget proposal that was actually read by the Finance Minister, Honorable Stumbeko Msokotwane, on Friday, just to hear some highlights that he has for us in the proposed 2023 national budget.
The much-anticipated 2023 national budget has been presented to Parliament by the Finance Minister, Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, which is 5.7 billion kwacha, slightly lower than the 2022 national budget. The 167.3 billion kwacha budget has been presented under the theme Stimulating Economic Growth and Improved Livelihood.
Propose to increase the allocation to the CDF to 4.4 billion kwacha, an increase of 401 million kwacha from this year's allocation. This means that each constituency will now get 28.3 million kwacha.
Meanwhile, despite 25.7 million kwacha Constituency Development Fund CDF failing to meet the expectations of the Zambian people, the Finance Minister says CDF has been increased to 28.3 billion kwacha per constituency in 2023.
Teachers, 4,500 teachers will be recruited. But on top of that, Madam Speaker, on top of that, there are teachers who have been stagnant for years and years. They have been acting senior teachers. They have been acting deputy headmasters. They have been acting headmasters.
And while the debate as to whether meal allowances, which in the past led to several riots by the students, should be reinstated is being discussed, government has since announced that it has reinstated meal allowances in the 2023 national budget for students. In the education sector, government says it will recruit additional 4,500 teachers and has planned to complete the construction of 53 early childhood schools, among other things.
Delighted to inform this August House that in 2023, government will recruit an additional 3,000 health personnel.
Order.
Madam Speaker, to ensure a resilient healthcare system and attain universal health coverage, government has increased allocations for the purchase of drugs and medical supplies.
The health sector is also expected to receive additional 3,000 health workers in 2023. Government has also increased pay-as-you-earn threshold from 4,500 to 4,800 kwacha. The citizens now await to see how the implementation of the 2023 national budget will be effected better than the 2022 budget. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Thank you for still staying to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Quite interesting views there that we heard from Parliament on Friday, where the Ministry of Finance was giving a budget for the 2023. Yeah, Zipporah, your thoughts on that before we go direct into, we continue with our discussion.
Yes, so the budget proposal was actually a very, very lengthy speech, and it really had a lot of promises out there, but really the concern has been that will these promises be actually actualized on the ground, and we are waiting to see whether the budget proposal actually be ratified by Parliament. But in studio, we've also been joined by Kawata Ward 6 Councillor Mr. Waliachishala to just help us discuss whether the country is on the right path to becoming a prosperous middle-income country by 2030, and this borders on the utilization of the Constituency Development Fund. So I've seen that the 2023 national budget has a proposed CDF of 28.3 million kwacha, an increase from the 25.7 million kwacha. But many people have been asking, has the 25.7 million kwacha even worked? And so the two councillors here are going to talk about their words in particular. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chala.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning. We're glad to have you on set.
Thank you.
Just going direct into speaking about the budget, do you think we're in the right trajectory as Zambia as a country of becoming a prosperous middle-income country by the year 2030?
Well, thank you so much. I would firstly like to state that us as councillors will look at the CDF as a major player into us being able to achieve this. And you saw that the first time the UPND came into power, there was a huge increment towards allocation of CDF. We've yet seen another increment from 25 to 28, somewhere about that. So I would like to state that yes, we faced problems as councillors, mainly because of the guidelines into people being able to access this. But clearly now, the Minister of Finance did allude to the fact that we are going to make this much easier. That means changing the guidelines and how people are able to access that. But when you look at the idea that we've yet again increased CDF, well, I wait to see just what kind of percentages will go to, say, empowerment as well as projects. But if I were to answer that, definitely this country is moving in the right trajectory as regards development.
But have we seen a huge chunk of that CDF actually being released, and has it benefited the people at the grassroots? Because that is the aim of the CDF. So either of you can answer that. Maybe in your words in particular, has this CDF, the 25.7 million, worked? Because we are hoping to see the 28.3 million, but of course the 25.7 million was surrounded with a lot of teething problems and all that. So now a bigger amount of money, is it going to work?
Yes, indeed. As I stated, that you see, we are a government that follows the law, and the law that currently obtains on the ground is that it is very difficult for people to access this CDF, and the only way we are going to have this CDF trickle down to the people in the wards is when we alter some of these procedures. So the 25 definitely is going to go down to the people, but I think it was the first year, and we've learned, and going forward it should be much easier.
My thought on the same is that it's true, this country is heading towards making a very good reputation for itself, looking at a lot of pronouncements that our president has put in place. But of course, these new improvements or these new pronouncements, like we were saying, we can't run away from the fact that we could be experiencing a few challenges here and there. But I earlier stated that we've started seeing the actualization of this CDF through education. I mentioned that there are few constituencies that have managed to award these cooperatives to its members. It's managed to also pay 80% of those that are going in schools, those that are in boardings. We've done school bursaries, we've done skills for most of these students that are on these colleges that are doing skills. So that part we've done. Even acquisition of school desks we've done. So the priority in this CDF was first to look at the education sector, which I think we've done. But also we are looking at decentralizing the operations and the implementation of this CDF, because we are seeing the ministry being saturated with a lot of work which would have been done possibly at district level. So we are going to look at provinces, the whole provinces in Zambia, taking their projects at Ministry of Local Government and waiting for that to be done, then sent back. So the only, I think, appeal that we've been making is that let the decentralization take place, and this is when people are going to really see the actualization of this CDF. Otherwise, it's something that is there. And also, we must take note that CDF did not start today. It has always been there, and the history of CDF is that sometimes it doesn't even take place. You find that an MP in an area, there was a pronouncement of CDF, but it takes them even 5 years for an MP to just see a single development. That is before we even came in. And we've noted that this is a serious concern which may hinder the citizens of this country to benefit from what is intended for them. So basically, it's the decentralization that should take place, and also the review in the guidelines.
Maybe I can add so that perhaps people of Zambia are able to appreciate why we just need to change the procedures. The 1.6 million, the then CDF, I can tell you that within our wards in Kawata constituency, this is when that is being implemented. It is only now that we are getting down to the ground and doing these projects. So it tells you just how much we need to change in terms of the procedure. I hope people will be able to appreciate that.
We actually have a message from one of our viewers who says 75% of the 2022 CDF allocation was released and only less than 10% was utilized by constituencies due to complicated conditions attached, and other political supporters have the audacity to say it was a successful implemented, well thought after plan, a well thought after plan. So they are putting up a challenge to you, saying that, you know, there were all these conditions attached to it which made the whole process being complicated. And then you, as the UPND party, are coming forth later on, you know, agreeing or stating rather that it did work nicely.
Okay, maybe just to respond to that, Miriam, you see, I want people to follow us very well. What we are saying is that I would say from 2015 up to 2021, which project was implemented under CDF? It means that even before we formed government, there was a problem with implementation of CDF. The conditions that were attached there, the guidelines which were formulated even before we formed government, are not good guidelines that are there. And even when we formed government, it is not Gary Ngombo that formulated those guidelines. God just found them. He works as a minister. He has technical people that advise him and guide him. So for him, he found those guidelines and he just went to do what? To possibly officiate the unveiling of these guidelines. He even himself, he did not really, for lack of a better term, I might say he didn't agree to most of them, but time had already gone. So these are technical people, directors, people that are at the Ministry of Local Government that made decisions on most of these guidelines. And this is why we are calling for those guidelines to be changed, because there are a lot of things that are there, are the same things that have always been there that made CDF for 2015, 2016 not to be implemented. So no matter how good President HH would declare certain declarations, provided those guidelines are not done, it is these declarations that have helped us now to begin to see a lot of mistakes in those guidelines.
But it still goes back to one thing, if I may assist my friend, that yes, the concern is well noted, but we, as I stated earlier, we are a government of laws. And even when we came into power, there was a law that was existing. And the moment you go against the law, then you are definitely not being a government of laws. So in this regard, no matter how much we put in terms of funds and for us to be able to achieve, it all depended on the procedures. And as I stated, look at what Minister of Finance said. He did clearly say that we are going to look at these procedures and we are going to make it easier for people to access. We are not denying that it has been difficult. It was only our first year. We were learning and we've learned a lot. I in particular and most of the councillors, it took us some time. Might I also add that it is only now that councillors are being also included in these procedural making processes, not so?
Yeah.
Yes, so as we go forward, I think the process will be very, very easy for us.
So as people who are on the ground there, on the grassroots, is it in order for the UPND, you are from the UPND, to increase CDF to 28, to propose to increase CDF to 28.3 million when the 25.7 has had a lot of teething problems? Is that in order, or maybe should you first find a way of actually disbursing this 25.7 million before having an increase?
Thank you. I think it is very much in order, and might I add that the fact that it has taken us long to be able to disperse these monies is because we have identified the problem, and the problem is what? Procedure. So we are alert to the fact that we need to change procedure. But this does not mean that...
Is there willingness from the Ministry of Local Government to actually loosen, or maybe because the concern is also of transparency and accountability? Well,
definitely there's that willingness. And you can see it from Minister, even the President did allude to that and raised concern over the same. So it is not for us to be able to say, no, we cannot increase CDF because we have not been able to deliver on time as regards the 25.7 million. We have identified the problem, and we are going to sort out that mess. And when we do that, then we are justified to increase. Because I can tell you that even at 28 million, the CDF for me, who after my experience, is still just a drop in the ocean. So going forward, we should as a people be looking forward to say we increase further in terms of allocation to projects, in terms of allocation to empowerment, especially the youth, as well as skills training.
Yeah, just to add on Zipporah, I think we are in the right direction, like we said. So the increase in the CDF, you see, what is happening now is that this money that came, it has already been committed, but it's like you are buying food for 1,000 people. You manage to buy 500, but then the person who's supposed to take to those people is delaying. You can't say you're not going to buy even for the rest 500 that have remained. The issue is to deal with the driver. Where are you? Why are you taking long to deliver this food to these people that need this food? So apparently the president's decision is very good, because even with that 1025.7, it has already been committed. All that money has been committed. It has gone to women and youth empowerment. It has gone to bursaries. It has gone to most of these projects. You see, some projects, the money was not even enough for it. So it is good that that money is committed. What is important is we plan in advance. We commit that money in advance. So at the moment we start now implementations, we would have already done most of the commitments to it. So at the end of the day, in the coming year, people will see a lot of massive infrastructure development, with a lot of business activities taking place this coming year. I can assure that people will attest to that.
We actually have another comment from our Facebook viewer, who Chris Banda, who says most councillors and members of parliament are eating on their own. They are not sensitizing people on how to apply for the constituency development funds.
Maybe I said that before my phone. You see, we're just talking of guidelines. None of the MPs or the councillors has ever seen CDF like, okay, this is money for CDF. CDF money is in projects. If a person says we've seen massive projects and maybe MPs and councillors are working from those activities where they've employed their own people and all that, I would agree. But no one will touch according to the guidelines. The money is in the accounts somewhere. There are a lot of people who are signatories to that money. No individual, councillor or MP, has access to that. If there is an MP who is doing that, I'm sure they're doing that with their own monies, not CDF. No one has touched CDF.
And how safe is this money? Remember,
very safe.
1 month ago we heard issues of the local, in fact it was like last week, we heard these scandals at the Lusaka City Council stating that 5 million, we don't know if it's from CDF, but it was just saying 5 million, I think it was from levies, from bus stations and markets.
Bus station as well as including with...
corruptly applied by one individual at the Lusaka City Council. So this was reviewed by the audit committee at the Lusaka City Council. So really, given that there are all these issues surrounding corruption, maybe that's where that question from the viewer emanates, or really what's your assurance in terms of this money being safe? Given this background, I'm sure that's where the viewer is getting this from.
I think we are mixing the two. The CDF, which is, I can reattest that very safe. And then the scandals at Lusaka City Council, those are allegations and yet to be substantiated. So we cannot dwell into that and start talking about things that are yet to be substantiated. Of course, we do acknowledge that corruption has been rampant, especially at Lusaka City Council. But again, it is not for us to speak about things that we have not yet found the truth to. So we as a government now are putting in place, and we should be proud
Just
of ourselves.
we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
You are through to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Who are we talking to this morning?
I'm good.
Kindly speak up.
I'm good.
It's good to know that Livingston is watching. Please go ahead, Mr. George, with your contribution.
I want to give a justice. I think the government is that way. And therefore, that's my vision. And the people who have learned I think that we are the mission. We are not that
Could you kindly repeat your earlier statement?
Your line is bad.
Your line is very bad. You're very low.
Hello?
Yes, we can now get you. Please go ahead.
People are putting out the question. We are not as instead of making constructive, foundations that are constructive. But we know that the place must be started. This is the right. Meaning, the better place is just the question. We can speak our opinion, but we should not stop the question.
And your contribution, Mr. George, to the increased CDF, what's your contribution?
Increased CDF, that is the government. That is the right direction where we are going. What I'm saying that this is the first year. You remember that this year past. This year's plan is to be taken back in the system government. Okay? Because we will go the longer without getting that. But now, our government has said that money will not be returned. So, that is the process from 25 to 26. That is just in the American process. You will see what happening in 2026.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Okay, so his earlier comment was from one of the clips we saw where the UPND Youth's chairman on Saturday had a press briefing where they were saying they will beat up any opposition political party that will be found insulting the president. But anyway, away from that, it's not our discussion this morning.
Give a comment on CDF stating that it is something in the right direction. Although my concern really is Mr. Munya. Well, we've seen the UPND saying teething problems. So when you have the 28.3, are you again going to say we've increased and we have teething problems until 2026?
No, well, first I want to add on what my colleague said in terms of security for the funds. We need to differentiate between money for Lusaka City Council and money for CDF. Money for CDF is not held by Lusaka City Council account. It is held in different various bank accounts, different banks. So this is why I was saying that it is very difficult for an individual to access that money. That is how it has been made. The allegations of money going missing at Lusaka City Council, I think that is for Lusaka City Council to respond to that through public relations. They should be able to give you enough information about that. So I want to assure the people that that money is very safe. And the next year, whether we like it or not, we will see a lot of massive development countrywide, a lot of implementation of these cooperatives. We'll see them next year because this 12 months that we've been with this CDF, it has taught us a lot of things and opened our eyes in so many ways. And right now we are working on the easing of implementation of this CDF. So that 2026 won't be the story. I can assure you, call us again, even in 2024. Come and interview us in 2024 that you said this. We'll confirm with you, yes. You see, we'll come and prove to you that it is only next year that you start seeing these developments. Because like I earlier stated, all this time we are doing what? We are committing these monies to most of these projects. And what is now remaining is to go on the ground. Remember, it is not only on the ministry side, even on these other stakeholders like society for where they register these businesses, PACRA also, they are overwhelmed with a lot of applications because a lot of businesses have opened. So there's so much business activities in the country. And next year it won't be the case because everyone would have done all that this year.
Your concluding remarks, Mr. Chala, as we end toward our discussion this morning. You know, people might be wondering, no, these are just talks from the ruling party. They are good at giving speeches. We have heard people saying that or saying those things on several occasions. What would be your comment on that as you conclude?
I would like to state that the monies that especially are being given in form of grants, and those who will be able to access loans, those who have accessed funding through skills training. I think mine is just to urge the people out there to say these monies that are being given to you, whether it's a loan or it's a grant, you are urged to use them wisely so that come next year we give other people, and this is how a country's economy is going to benefit, because the moment you enter into business, it means you are also now adding to the taxes that ZRA collects. You employ more people, and you know it's a ripple effect. So mine is just to urge the people out there to stay determined to do what is right, because this government is trying by all means to assist everyone. I think that would be my remark.
And your concluding remarks, Mr.
My concluding remarks would be that let people not panic. This CDF is very much real. Very soon we'll see the actualization of it, and I want to urge a lot of women and youths, young people, to fully participate in this, because when it starts to roll out, they'll be complaining that they've been left out. So let them not see what is happening now, but they should have the eyes of the future, getting ready in advance for what is coming, because a lot of developments that will come will need contractors, will need this and that. So if people are not ready, they'll start complaining again. Let them get ready and get involved. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much to our viewers out there, as well as those who actually left us messages on Facebook. Quite interesting discussion there we've heard from the councillors themselves who are at the grassroots, and they're actually hopeful that this CDF will work. Just now take a short break, but join us on the other side as we continue with another guest.
Of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Thank you for still staying tuned to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. In studio, we have now moved with our another guest in studio where we are still discussing, will Zambia become a prosperous middle-income country by 2030? And we are joined by Chilubi Member of Parliament, Mr. Mulenga Foe. Good morning, and how are you?
Good morning, madam.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, and good morning, award-winning journalists. I'm proud.
we are glad to have you on set.
I'm on board too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
On Friday, you were in Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. And you saw the Ministry of Finance, Stumbe Komsokotwane, giving the budget proposal for the 2023.
Yes.
Will Zambia, analyzing that budget, will Zambia become a prosperous middle-income country by 2030? You with your analysis.
I think to start with, when we are talking about that, you need to refer to documents that are available. Mm-hmm. The middle income comes from the Vision 2030. Mm-hmm. And I think among other things, it talks about human capital and a lot more things, where we have even the 8th National Development Plan, the current 8th National Development Plan, has borrowed heavily with the 4 pillars, and one of the pillars being economic transformation and all that, and then another one is on human development and social, the other one is on environmental sustainability, and another one is on a good governance environment. Mm-hmm. So having said that, Dr. Msokotwane picked a theme, which is stimulating economic growth mm-hmm. for improved livelihood. Mm-hmm. And that being the case, you find that turning the theme to what is inside, because they say the devil is in the details. Mm-hmm. Dr. Msokotwane came up with a budget of 167.3 billion. Mm-hmm. And I think if you look at that budget, how we demonstrated a budget performance for this year, mm-hmm. and you realize that the budget for 2023 mm-hmm. is lower than the budget for 2022 by a big margin. Why do I say that by big margin? What was presented to Parliament at first in the 2022 budget is 173 billion. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, billion. That's 173 billion kwacha. It could be dollars. Mm-hmm. And later on, the minister, after some few months, came back for a budget supplement, meaning that there was a budget deficit somehow, mm-hmm. to ask for 22 billion, meaning that you can add your maths. 173 billion plus 22 billion. Mm-hmm. It gives you some whopping 195 billion. Mm-hmm. That is the budget we had for this year. In reality, that's what it interprets. Though some people were clapping when the budget was brought to Parliament of 22 billion. They were saying, no, the government is using money, and because they were told we'll pay issues of pensions and so forth and the like in the same money. But I think I can tell you that the budget performance, if we are to follow detail by detail, is not how it was projected. So I think I just wanted to give this background based on the budget that was presented. Now the question is, will the 2023 budget stimulate the growth in line with what my sister asked there on the 2030 Vision 2030 mid-income? It is not going to. Why it is not going to is that there are a lot of factors and fundamentals that we need to follow. One of the fundamentals is that the cost of living is still very high, and I think we are still skyrocketing prices. If you compare the price index of essential commodities with the dollar rate, the kwacha versus dollar, the inflation rate, you would discover that if we are to go by that particular fundamental, the issue of the kwacha versus the dollar and the inflation rate, which is a single digit, I think 9 point something, would still interpret into an artificial statistic, because you and me know that the lowest you can buy a 5-liter cooking oil is still going at 195 kwacha, and the maximum is about 250 there. So looking at such prices, this invites me to talking about what he talked distantly about the agriculture sector. Last year, the agriculture sector, because this is about the theme that he carried, is attracting the interpretation, trickle-down effect of at the household level. Now, looking at it, that our farming or agriculture is one of those areas where we are supposed to score so much for the economy to interpret into to be stimulated, so that it has a bearing on livelihood. Because he mentioned livelihood in his theme. If you look at bags that were said that they should be giving, the minister last year said he will be giving more bags under FISIP. And he emphasized from the 1,700 that government was adding on then, he is going to increase to 3,600, which interprets to more bags in terms of volume and more farmers. But we have not seen that. This year, the 2023-2022 farming season, they have still emphasized that each farmer across the board will get 6 bags. And even when they are given legumes that are supposed to have a bearing on edible oils, which we are currently importing and the like, because producing edible oils in the country is more expensive than imported, if you don't realize. The imported edible oils are lower as compared to our local edible oils. So this is an issue of supply and demand. And if it's an issue of supply and demand, I would have loved government to take a deliberate policy to broaden the space for legumes and other seeds that are used to produce oil, so that at the end of the day, you and me can have cheaper cooking oil. And that's how you interface. Because at the end of the day, currently we have a liberalized economy. We don't have a communist economy, where Dr. Kaunda was using a price control act, and then that time it is the government that was in charge of production of goods, which is, if you remember, Rob, I don't know how old you were then, it used to produce what was called salad, and then it used also to produce the soaps like Palmolive and many factors, which was based in dollar, and then taken to the market. Now this time around, all these factors are in the hands of the private sector. There are Masachis, the other people and so forth who are in manufacturing, the trade kings and so forth. We are not controlling. It is the private sector. Now, if you are to base about improving livelihood for people, I do not see that the budget has a serious trickle-down effect. And if you are to follow, maybe one of the factors that is being glorified in the budget is that of CDF.
Yes, which has seen an increase, or proposed increase.
Yes, a proposed increase. You realize that whereas it is good to increase the CDF, I do recognize the minister's admission that constituencies are not of the same, and though we pushed it to 2024, because that's has been our concern, that the constituency in Kabata, where central government is interfacing, is not compared to my constituency in the rural area. The challenges are different. So if the challenges are different, and the minister said we will consider that in the 2024 budget, but for now across the board is 28,000, which interprets into 4.4 billion, and that is just about 2.6% of the whole budget, because I know that that particular component has been accommodated under economic affairs. And if it has been accommodated under economic affairs, it also means that it's seen as an economic stimulant. And how is it seen as an economic stimulant? Let's take the CDF. Yes, Zambians would benefit. Some of them who are contractors. I mean, it's good to be fair. They'll benefit to do this works and the like, and then possibly they'll plow back money to buy a bag of meal and the like and so forth. And then we also look at an aspect of women groups and youth groups. But I can tell you that that particular component is still a parasite. And it just follows. You should, sometimes it's important to learn, even when you see that some governments that you feel have failed, you can learn a lesson from them.
Such as?
Yes, when you look at youth empowerment, I am one of those, when I was in the youth movement, who championed youth empowerment then. And I think the introduction into the budget, the first budget, we pushed it. That time under the late Rev. Patrick Manawasa, may he rest in peace. And when that was introduced, you find that these funds are just being abused in some way.
But the PF was accused of empowering only its people, while the UPND says the CDF is benefiting.
No. You see, in this nation, let's learn to be fair. Everybody used to receive the CDF. I remember the time I got to Parliament through a by-election. Sometimes constituencies which were manned by ministers would sacrifice not to receive when the funds were not available for everybody. So ministers then were PF. So I don't know where this issue of, even now, we have a problem where some of the MPs are saying they have received for 3 quarters. I would give you an example of Senga. When I've just received for 2 quarters myself. And when we talk about that, I think let's be truthful and prudent. Because so far, the minister announced in Parliament, and it's in the budget, that 75% of the money has been given away. And when we talk about that, it is interpreting to 3 billion. And 3 billion, my sister, is interpreting to 19.2 million per constituency. I have just gotten 13 in my constituency.
So does it mean is the minister lying?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I am providing you with statistics. Go and read the budget. The minister, by the time he was presenting the budget, in our account, we own at closer to 13 million. And the others have been claiming that they have received more than that. So, like I read an article yesterday in the newspaper where the minister from Chinga, who is at the same time the Senga Hill MP, was saying that he has received for 3 quarters. So some of us are at a loss to see who is saying what. Because when you talk about 75%, my sister, it's 3 billion. And the 3 billion interprets it to 19.2 million per constituency. And if most of the MPs, we have only received 2 installments in 6.4 million each. And some 700 that is meant, which came last, which is meant for the loans, because the loans, they were supposed to look at different modalities, as the CDF Act of 2018 does not allow the disbursement of loans. So we are working at a modality, the Minister of Finance as well as the Minister of Local Government. So I think the implementation of the intention could be very good. Very, very good. And if it is not having a trickle-down effect on the rest of our brothers, then we need to question it. And I think we we should not be afraid of each other, and we should not call each other like just opposing for the sake of it. This money should have meaning. I remember the time we were debating on the 2022 budget. We were called, you thieves, we were just giving 1.6. And in our case, we are going to give all the money in January. But we have not received all the money in January. The first installment we received was when we had exhausted the first quarter of the year. I think it was in the 4th month, going into the 4th month. And then the other one was just received a few weeks ago. So, people of God, sometimes when we are trying to address some of these factors, let us be prudent. And I think when you surround a fund with a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of codes, and things that are not clear, you spoil the intention of a good fund. And I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Is the proposed increase right now at this moment, was it right? Was it done right? Given the fact that the previous CDF, which was at 27.7 million, we had 25.7 million, we had seen these lead to technical challenges in terms of disbursement and what. Was this proposed increase right at this moment? Well,
this proposed increase will on tick. I only appreciate one value, where the minister said that they will not recall the unutilized funds. That is appreciated, and that is because of their burden they cause on the same CDF. Yes. Whereas the minister, you go and read the speech. The minister, among other things, has acknowledged that some of the bottlenecks that were found in the underutilization of the fund are administrative challenges, and I decentralize the approvals, where you know that when we sit at conference level, the CDF committee sits, where the WDCs have submitted their proposals to the CDF committee. At the end of the day, once the CDF committee has done that, they submit to a particular local government in that particular CDA constituency. Then that is taken to the minister for approval. I can tell you that even Chirubi had some challenges, including for the 2021. We had some challenges on approval. It was an issue of back and forth. For us to, even I can confidently tell you that the secondary school, the boarding, bursaries, they were only approved, I think, 2 weeks ago. And when we had sat to look at such some months ago, so meaning that from the consul's point of view, we did our part. What was remaining is the ministry. Now, apart from church, we find that also cumbersome procurement, procedures, and the issue of we need to decentralize the decision-making process, because it's like currently the CDF committee is just rubber stamping. It's not about making any, because at the end of the day, the ministry can decide to approve or not to approve, or to delay, or to expedite. So such factors are supposed to be, considered. But what is of more critical, and a bit of disturbing element is the guidelines. Yes, prohibitive guidelines, which have not helped even the youths. I remember the time we were sitting as a CDF committee, we had to take back most of the things that the youths applied. And we gave them another month in which they're supposed to sit and clean up their papers so that they may fit into the guidelines. But even then, when they brought back the papers, we had still challenges. So, meaning that, you see, like Jesus said, that Sabbath was not meant, the law of Sabbath. It was Sabbath. Man was not meant for Sabbath, but Sabbath for man. So when we look at the issue of guidelines, the guidelines should serve the interests of the people, not people serving the guidelines. So currently the people are serving the guidelines. The guidelines are not serving the interests of the people. So And saying all these...
Have you seen willingness from the current administration maybe to actually adjust these guidelines, or has it ended?
Well, to be honest, even in the current budget, the minister did acknowledge. Yes, and I think me, I'm a very straightforward person. I don't do things because of malice. To be honest, if you read the budget, the minister acknowledged that guidelines is one of the challenges that they are facing. And we all hope that since they are the ones with the machinery of looking at how to simplify the guidelines, we will sit down and simplify the guidelines. That is our hope. Because Mlenda Fure and other, can only play when they are even talking about revisiting the CDF, the 2018 CDF Act. I don't know which components they will bring on board, but as from the CDF Act point of view, currently, it's actually the guidelines that are making it difficult. The CDF Act, when you look at the way it has been laid, even those that are supposed to monitor projects and so forth, it's not a problem. And I think one of the factors that I would like to state, my sisters, is that let us have this vehicle that they are talking about to be released to constituencies for monitoring. Because monitoring means that we need to have quality monitoring of these projects. And quality monitoring starts from the time when these things are advertised to start with. In my constituency, we have already started inviting tenders for community projects, and the director of works is going around currently to take these contractors who are visiting sites. And in doing so, you find that they have to just modify some transport of some sort. So you need this vehicle. That was I talked about, to be in the constituency right currently, so that we expedite the process of monitoring, because it's about project implementation and monitoring the quality of the buildings, of the roads, of the canals, and many other factors that will be coming out of the CDF, because we need to see that we become sensitive to deliverables. And if you are not sensitive to deliverables, then we'll be shooting in the dark. Yes.
In case you're just joining us, we are discussing the 2023 budget proposal with a particular interest on the increased constituency development fund, or proposed increase of the constituency development fund from 25.7 million kwacha to 28.3 million kwacha. So you can call us on the numbers that are scrolling on your screen, or leave us a message on Facebook. So actually, Honorable, we do have a message from one of our viewers here who says UPND seems to have done a lot in 1 year, more than the previous administration. Or maybe simply put, are you criticizing everything that the current administration is doing, or do they have something to be praised for?
Well, that is a fake narrative.
That's what is their view from it? Sorry, your response.
No, can I respond to that message? Yes. That is a fake narrative. Having done so much in a year, on what? Yes, because I can demonstrate to you that when PF came in, and the promises it made, PF talked about giving more districts, where some of the districts were bigger, because the people boast about decentralization. And they always criticize PF didn't do anything about decentralization. Even the equalization fund we are talking about today, which is even in the budget, it is the PF that boosted and that stabilized that equalization fund. Meaning, we built a strong foundation where UPND is just doing Katete Mondamwarima on it. It's not about what. So when you talk about doing so much, for instance, I would tell you that when we came in, when it comes to public health workers, like public workers, yes, we did not employ those numbers because we didn't have infrastructure then. We ventured into infrastructure, roads, clinics, hospitals, and also schools. But we increased the salaries for public workers by 100%, to some extent by 200%. In 1 year, it's that people forget easily. And within 1 year, we had another hardened province. And you know, when you have a province, it means that when you cut another province into two, you are trying to bring development closer to the people. And you see, we were doing these things, actually we are the ones who are very methodical. Because we started by making sure that we create more districts so that the money that a particular district is supposed to receive. For instance, if this was Lusaka, or just not without these districts that are there, and one, it means that it would have been having an allocation of one district. But multiplying districts meant that the money, for instance, that would have been going to one district, if a district was receiving 75 million, it now receives, say, so much because it has been divided. It means that if there are two districts in there, the district that was receiving 75 million will be receiving 150 million. So to say that they have done so much, because they have found a foundation, a solid foundation.
But maybe they would boast that they have recruit this huge number of teachers.
You mean they would have recruited those teachers without infrastructure? They would have recruited the nurses without infrastructure. It is us who even took them, who facilitated. We found 2 universities.
Anyway, hold your thoughts.
And when we are talking about education system.
Just hold your thoughts. Yes. The caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
You're through to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Who are we talking to this morning?
Yes, my name is Chandra. I'm calling from Mansa.
It's good to know that Mansa is watching. Please go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Okay, my contribution is very simple and very straightforward. I wanted to say, I think when people say good things, just appreciate the good things that they are doing. Not everything must be politicized. That's the simple issue, not to say, oh, PF this, PF that, he doesn't do that. If PF that, it doesn't matter, just appreciate the things. Not, the country is always being politicized. There's no other good. Politics must be the type of politics we intend to appreciate what is happening, and we intend just this is this, and this is to appreciate, and this is the best thing, and think it is welcome that way. Not every day, politics. Then this country does not go forward. Thank you so much. That's my
Thank you so much.
I think I'm not playing politics here.
I think our viewers also did allude to the fact that the current should not also blame PF, that PF did that. They should also appreciate.
Yes, you see, what it is about nature and life, PF did so much in the 10 years. And I can tabulate how I wish you can give me in 2 hours one day to come and show the nation and demonstrate what PF did.
Do that?
And when you talk about that, it is the UPND government that is on assault route about this is their own store, but they have been commissioning, projects that PF left. So I think in a way, the viewer, as far as he wants to, he's trying to create a balance between us and I think in my case, if you have seen, even when I'm talking about the budget, I am pointing at how does it link to other documents. This is not politics, it's economics. I am trying to point at the weaknesses, which even the Minister of Finance, who in this case is UPND, talked about. So I think I'm not far away from the truth, and I'm not criticizing for the sake of it. What I'm trying to do is what is called constructive criticism. And I'm using the material that, for instance, the minister said, out of all the money that has been given, it is only 10% that has been utilized. That's not a good statistic. The minister, you know that he gave the speech on which day? 30th September. And 30th September means that we are only remaining with 3 months. And in a year, 90% of the fund, CDF, is not utilized. It's the minister's statistics, not my statistics. So, if he says 90% of the funds is not utilized, and we are remaining with 3 months, if we are to look at how that was being bent, how the money was being bent, it means that possibly it's 0. something percent per month. Now, if we are to go by the same rate in the remaining, it means that the maximum we can go possibly would be at 13%, meaning so much percentage will remain underutilized. And I think that if we continue the same culture of absorbing these funds, I do not see us scoring so much in this year. That is why you heard me that I'm not just a cheap critic, as some people may view. I appreciated the fact that the minister brought in the issue of not recalling the funds. And I think those who have followed me would realize that I was trying to do a balance up on what has been utilized. And so far, I even said that it is because of the guidelines and administrative challenges. That's why the funds have not been utilized. And I think we ought to be fair for people that says, no, they did so much and so forth. You see, whoever is touching government money, for instance, my sister, I would say that when you talk about the CDF, you follow Parliament, when you're asking questions from different ministers, they are always referring to, you can do that school in the CDF, you can do that teacher house in the CDF. But what was happening in the PF is that you will have the 1.6 being given to the constituents as a far-fighting fund. The Minister of Health would come in and build a clinic. The Minister of Education would come in and build a school using the central government. And these things were meeting. For instance, there are certain wards in my constituents that were allocated to the Minister of Local Government away from the CDF. Because the CDF then was too little to even do. Even now, some of the roads, gravel roads, just about 30-something kilometers, it will cost me.
Like we have a caller, just hold your thought. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
You're through to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Who are we talking to this morning?
I'm Chibuye from Luancha.
You're from Luancha?
Yes.
Who are we talking to?
Chibuye.
I'm Chibuye from Luancha.
Oh, it's good to know that Luancha is watching. Please go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Well, thank you for your opinion and the way you're coming up with this. Well, you see, you're very beyond all the matters you really the issue of talked about. But the good thing, you have to look or listen to people. PF your presence. Well, but the only problem you have is currency. You don't want us to talk to people or to listen to people to know what exactly you should do or how you can address issues which have cost you badly. If you see to example, our former president, all the cases are very simple cases. But simply because you don't open up yourselves to know the truth, how to address it. As you have stated, you are doing the same thing. But the simple thing has got you. You see? Wait for that time to know the truth, to know the way forward, to such a way, put the place.
Thank you,
sir. We have accepted our president is a king. And you know, so those who are present, they don't know his part. What is that part? So that's the thing I can remind you. Be open, talk to people.
All right, thank you very much for the contribution.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. It seems well.
I think that was
9 hours, but you can just respond to them.
I think that was more an advisory note of how do you balance the act, and I think that's what he was trying to talk about. A bit not too much related to the CDF and the budget. I think he was just giving general advice on how to, because you see, generally, politicizing issues is what takes away the value for something. We can have a well-meaning project, we can have a well-meaning fund and the like, but I think it's so important because there is also a notion that has been promoted that in constituencies where there are opposition members of parliament, they are trying to sabotage the CDF. I think when you talk about that,
possible, maybe just
it's not possible. Which MP will sabotage a fund that is going to help them to point at something and say this is what we have done as a government? In any case, I am government, and no one can take away from it because I'm part of the legislature. The government has got 3 arms: judiciary, executive, and when the executive comes with a proposal, we are the ones who approve the budget in parliament. So for people striving, this issue that has been pushed in the minds of the people, where they feel that whoever is opposition, even when they are members of parliament, they are not part of government. And we advise, some of us advise in line, and we take patriotism as the first thing. So whenever we are advising, we are also bearing in mind that I'm also part of government. So for anyone to portray a picture that I will sabotage a government program, I think it's not being fair. And I think I cannot sabotage issues of CDF at my constituency. I'm killing the poor. Because any money that is pumped in my constituency is meant to benefit the poor. And the moment I start sabotaging that, it means that I'm also not wise. So I think let us be fair to each other. And I think you mentioned one point that I would like to dwell upon, that of politicizing. The country is polarized on political lines. You find that even when we have a question of legal understanding, those who are lawyers from the ruling party will take up this stage. Those who are lawyers from the opposition will take up, but they went to the same law school. The same applies to issues of economics. You find the economists in the opposition will take up a particular position. Economists in the ruling party will take up a particular position. I think it's not necessary. It has even spread to you, the media, where you find that there are few of you who can invite all the people. But some of them, you even know that when you go to a particular media, even when you say something, they want to twist it to fit the desire of whoever they serve. So I think that let's not go that way.
Anyway, as you conclude, Honorable, maybe just your response to some of the things in the budget in conclusion, where the UPND has actually reintroduced meal allowances. They have promised to recruit 4,500 teachers and 3,000 more health workers, as well as finish the construction of 120 schools. Your comment on all these?
115 schools.
120 schools.
There's 115 schools that the PF left, which they are supposed to finish. Then there is also 120 newly, which are supposed to be newly constructed. Read your budget very well. And those are
as well as new allowances, recruitment of more
yes.
workers.
I think when you look at recruitment,
maybe you can also tell the people of Chilui what developmental project they hope to see next year.
Well, I wish that I did that.
You respond to those questions.
I have got about 37 projects that are supposed to be implemented as community projects away from the empowerment of youths and women. But let me dwell on the new allowance. The new allowance sounds very good. And I think it's...
And they say the PF scrapped it off, now they've brought it. Your comment on that?
Can I finish? Yes, it sounds very good. But my sister, look, we have got 56 plus universities, which includes also public universities. When the PF came in, they only found 2 universities that could be called public universities. And they added 7 universities. And meaning that in these 7 universities, the population has also grown, which government is supposed to cater for. And one of the reasons that was why the new allowance was scrapped is that it started attracting, there was there, because that is a social funding. It's not an economic what. I know that when you are investing in education, at the end of the day, you are building human capital, which is of long-term benefit. Now, when you look at the new allowance, it needed to be balanced up. If you go to the higher education act on loans and bursaries, you find that it is talking about every institution, every student that is in Zambia to benefit through the loans and the like. But you need to realize, if you watched Parliament, just a few days before then, there was a motion that was rejected by the UPND on the issues of loans being extended to private. When we talk about education, it has got enrollment rate, retention rate, and progression rate. A lot of people will not fit into public universities. Most of them actually are housed by private universities. They also deserve just some loans, which they will pay back using the act that is there. I'm not saying that extending the new allowances. So what we are doing, especially if we concentrate on equity, it means that there are poor people going to these private universities. There are also poor people going into public universities. So to me, as far as that's a good score, it has not balanced well with the private, the Zambian youths that are in private universities. You mentioned another component of
Unfortunately, Honorable, yes, you can just maybe under a minute.
Okay.
We're talking about the schools in under a minute.
Yes, I think under a minute I would say that there are a lot of projects. You asked me about the projects. There are a lot of projects that are supposed to be implemented under the CDF. And I think government has also got the different lines that we interface. And then I think, as I mentioned, the number is about 37 for community projects. And I think that once those projects are implemented and the money is released, they will change the face of Chilubi in one way or the other. That's that I would like to state. Yeah.
Quite interesting there. So that has been Honorable Mlingapuve Chilubi, Member of Parliament, just helping us discuss the proposed budget that was announced by the Minister of Finance on Friday. Earlier, we were joined by councillors from Chilenje, from Kawata constituency, just telling us about how CDF has done on the ground, the 2022 CDF. Thank you very much for those who joined us on Facebook, as well as for those who actually called in. Do join us tomorrow as we bring to you more interesting programs. For us, it's good morning.